News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset. 800-288-9227. That's 800-288-WBAP. Well, today was the big day for many of us along the border, watching what's happening along the border. And what happened is, of course, as you know, we had Tom Homan come down to the border with Governor Abbott. Interestingly enough, there was a separate ceremony going on. And that was with the Texas Land Commissioner, who we just talked to last night on the show, Dawn Buckingham, and others, including Congressman Chip Roy, who is a firebrand in his own name, and he'll be joining us on the show coming up in 30 minutes on the Chris Crock Show on News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3. Very much looking forward to talking to Congressman Chip Roy. So there were two simultaneous things going on at the border. You can see that we are getting poised. The Trump administration is getting poised. Texas officials are getting poised to be completely cohesive, and they are going to stop this border invasion with prejudice ASAP. In fact, one of the most brilliant things of all time that was said today is simple but brilliant, and especially after you hear that Trump's announcement today that 25% tariffs are going to be slapped on Mexico y también por Canada. They will both be getting tariffs of 25% until the illegal invasion and the drugs stop flowing, particularly the illegal invasion in Canada. I heard today that 17 times the amount of illegals. Let me strike that. In the past year, I believe it was either in the past year or the past 3 years, but in the past year to 3 years, the amount of illegals that have come over the Canadian border is more than the amount that has come in over the past 17 years. We've had 17 years worth of illegals coming over our border in Canada, I believe, in the past year. Second of all, as you know, with Mexico border, it is also insane. It's like 11 or 12, like 11.1 million, not including the 2 million gotaways. At least 11.1 million. Compared to Trump in his first 3 years or 3.5 years, whatever the same amount of time is. And Trump had 3.1 million in his whole administration. So far, they've had 11.1 million. Again, adding the 2 million gotaways, you're at 13.1 million. So you literally are seeing over 4 times the amount of illegals. For every one illegal that came in under Trump, 4 came in under Joe. This was a purposeful and intentional invasion. And so Trump says to Mexico, you are going to stop this invasion immediately. You are going to stop the fentanyl from coming over our border immediately. You are going to stop the narcos from getting stuff across the border. You're going to stop this. And if you don't, we slap a 25% tariff on you, effective immediately on day one, January 20th, whatever it is, in the middle of the day when he takes office. At that point, 25% tariff immediate. Boom. It's funny enough because Claudia Sheinbaum, it's funny saying Sheinbaum as in the president of Mexico, but it's the first Jewish president, which is always first, which is great. Anyways, Claudia Sheinbaum is a socialist leftist, and she said today that she'll do a tariff war, and we don't want tariff wars. She said, but if we have to, we'll do that. We'll go back and forth and back and forth. But then suddenly she had a change. And she said, 12 hours later, she said, Mexico is stopping the illegal migrant caravans heading up the border to the U.S. border and is working to meet U.S. officials as soon as possible. Isn't that amazing? So look at freaking Donald Trump compared to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Look at this, guys. Here's the quote from Twitter. This is on my feed. You should retweet it. It's from earlier today. Donald Trump technically isn't even president yet. And he's done more to secure our border just by existing over the last 3 weeks than Joe Biden and his DEI borders or Kamala Harris have done in 4 years. Isn't that true? It's true. He's already stopping the illegal invasion before he takes office. And God bless him for that. Justin Trudeau called Trump today. Oh! And you heard the audio at the top of the hour on the news. We talked and we're having serious. You don't hear him blustering. Wow, I'm going to do a tariff war. Claudia Sheinbaum, if she plays this game, she's going to get pimp slapped, not literally, figuratively, and politically pimp slapped by Trump. She won't know what the heck hit her. She thinks she can play patty cake with us. She's a third. Look, I love Mexico. I've been there many times. I love the people, and I love going there to the places where you don't get jacked, which is very far and few between nowadays, sadly. But they're a third world country. They still have wide, massive swaths of the country that don't have either electricity, or they might have electricity, but they don't have plumbing. All sorts. They're a very poor state, other than the rich, corrupt folks. So she's going to lose this war. Volkswagens that are made there, 25% tariff. Good luck. We can deal with crap with that happening for a month or two. She can't. She has no idea what she's playing with. But anyway, she did say all of a sudden she's going to change. I can't figure out which way the order is, but one thing she said is that there was a change within 12 hours. So, second of all, you have a professor over at UTSA saying this tariff, as far as the tariff wars, and as far as the UTSA professor is talking about how these deportations, if we do mass deportations, we're going to seriously affect our agriculture. Here we go. Our agriculture and construction and hospitality. If we do these mass deportation policies, industries such as construction, hospitality, and agricultural could be hurt severely. And he says, the only way to know the consequences of this is to see them unfold. I'm willing to see the consequences of mass deportations. Are you? Even if it means our ag, construction, and hospitality industries being affected and hurting us in some way. I'm willing to see that happen, aren't you? And don't you think that we should deport every single illegal that has invaded us this past 4 years? Don't you think that every one of the 4 years of illegals, every one of them that's come over in the past 4 years, must be deported? And they've already committed a crime by coming here. But don't you think, even if they don't commit another crime other than committing illegally, which is a crime, don't you think they must be deported? Because every single one of them has been brought into this country illegally and improperly, and any Democrat to follow in the shoes after Trump, if they should dare try what Biden has tried and Kamala have tried, that everyone will be deported. This cannot work. If it does, we are screwed, because it'll keep happening and keep happening and keep happening. And also, you could see people in the city of Dallas, officials, if they resist, if they want to hide, if they want to obfuscate ICE, you could see people who hinder ICE get arrested. Officials in Dallas or down in San Antonio, the Bexar County Sheriff, there's a radical pro-illegal guy. He was willing to investigate and try to charge Ron DeSantis for flying the illegals to Martha's Vineyard. That was beautiful. So my questions for you are at 800-288-WBAP. Are you willing to risk mass deportation even if it hurts our ag, construction, and hospitality industries? And do you agree with Trump's use of terrorists to stop this illegal invasion? And what are your thoughts on arresting officials who hinder ICE, whether they be in Dallas, somewhere else in Texas, or in Denver? 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. Chime in right now. Lines are wide open, ready to take your call. China is scolding us because Trump also said, we're going to nail you with a tariff if you do not stop the fentanyl. I heard today that China says China has the death penalty for anybody who deals drugs. Funny thing is, apparently they're not enforcing it. They're not putting people to death over it. Isn't that funny? Trump came out today and he also said we're going to slap a tariff on China if this fentanyl does not stop. And so he says that we're going to avoid taking the Communist Party's goodwill for granted and suggest no one will win China said that no one will win a trade war. But what Trump has done is tariffs on China for the fentanyl crisis. So until they stop pouring fentanyl into our country, until they institute their maximum penalty, that of death for any drug dealers caught doing this, and drugs stop pouring into our country, at levels never seen before from Mexico, he says. Until such time as they stop, we will be charging China an additional 10% tariff above additional tariffs on any and all of their products and coming into the United States of America. And he promised that. He had previously promised a 60% tariff on Chinese goods. So I don't know if we'll go to that. But right now, it's a 10% until you stop the fentanyl. I want that bad because China knows everything. You know that. It's a communist state. You are not free to do anything unless they say so. And it cannot do anything but promote the government and to worship it and to worship its dictator, Xi Jinping. They know who's making fentanyl. They know where they're making fentanyl. They know how much fentanyl they're making. They know the names of the people that are running it. They're letting it happen because they want to kill us, because they seek to destroy us and dominate us and make us their you-know-what. Joe in Colleyville. Oh, you want to do it next? Okay, Joe in Colleyville, we're going to take you coming up next, Joe. Sorry about that. My bad. Joe, you'll be coming up next on the Chris Crock Show. Stand by, plus 4 lines open. 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. Are you willing to risk with the mass deportations, even if it hurts our ag, construction, hospitality industry? Is that okay with you if it does? Do you agree with Trump's use of tariffs to stop this illegal invasion? And what are your thoughts on arresting officials in Texas or in other states who interfere or hinder the ability to wrap up and get every single illegal, including the ones who haven't committed a crime after they came here illegally, which is a crime? 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. I've got information on these. By the way, Trump's incoming border czar, Homan, he did say yes, unequivocally. He has openly said, yes, we are absolutely going to end federal funding, take away federal funding for sanctuary cities and sanctuary states that don't comply. And the numbers are huge. I'll give you numbers of some of these states that are sanctuary states. You're not going to believe how much money they're going to lose and how much of their money in their budget comes from the feds. It's bad. And they will use this. And I think that's incredible. That is next on the Chris Crock Show. I'll tell you all about it at 8:17 on News Talk 820 WBAP. And now on FM at 93.3, 800-288-9227 is our number.
Me and the Denver mayor, we agree on one thing. He's willing to go to jail. I'm willing to put him in jail. Because there's a statute. It's Title 8 United States Code 1324 III. And what it says is, it's a felony if you knowingly harbor and conceal an illegal alien from immigration authorities. It's also a felony to impede a federal law enforcement officer. So if we don't want to help, that's fine. He can get the hell out of the way.
So that is Tom Homan. He'll put him in jail. You could really see, we have some radical leftist politicians here in Dallas County. You could, I don't see Clay J getting in the way of hindering them. I just see him with his rhetoric attacking them. But I could see Abogado. I know Abogado. He was in the news with Lulac. He was denouncing this yesterday. Abogado. You can see his ambulance chasing billboards everywhere. Abogado was mad, but his I don't know if his wife is still a Dallas County commissioner or not, but you got a lot of radical leftist city council members and a couple of Dallas County commissioners. Or one of them could get involved. I don't know. And then Bexar County Sheriff, look for him to maybe have in big trouble because he loves his illegals. And then who knows out of Austin? Oh boy. Who knows what we'll see? But that guy in Denver, that mayor, if he's smart, he better shut his pie hole or at least not act on it because he will be arrested. Second of all, this is amazing. They will pull federal money and look at the federal grants that have come into sanctuary states. California, now this was during COVID, so it was jacked up, but in 2021, California got $163 billion in federal aid. That could go bye-bye. Even if a quarter of that or 10% of it went bye-bye, that'll screw them. New York had $110 billion, Texas $106 billion, but again, that was under COVID. They routinely receive tens of billions of dollars annually. In fact, federal grants, according to the Daily Mail today, are the second largest revenue source for states in 2022. The number 2 revenue source for states in 2022. So this is going to get real. And I love how, you know what, both sides are already fighting left and right and stuff, but they're going to lose. And I think this is great. So are you willing to risk mass deportations, even if it hurts our AG and construction and hospitality industry? I'm talking about every one of the last 4 years that have come in. Every one of them, whether they've committed a violent crime or not, doesn't matter. All of them must go. I'm talking about going into the illegal migrant shelters we have all over Texas and all over the country. Yes. And I'm talking about the 1.4 million who've gotten deportation orders of deportation. Their hearings have been heard. I'm talking about the 700,000 Venezuelans, all the Haitians, the El Salvadorans, I believe it was, and the Cubanos, all of them that have come in the past 4 years with the magic wand of Kamala and Joe saying, you know what, humanitarian parole, come in. Haiti, too, massive amount. They're all gone. And they should be. But all of the 11 or 12 or 13 million, all of them must be gone. Joe in Colleyville, WBAP, hello.
Chris, honor and privilege, sir. I'm from El Paso, Texas. My mother's from Juarez, Mexico. I am legal immigrant here, and I'm going to tell you something. Talk about the service industry. First off, we already have illegals that have lived here for years, even decades, okay? Mm-hmm. They're in and taking their jobs. That's what's happening.
Yes.
They're competing and underbidding them and doing it even cheaper because they're living multiple people in a home or apartment. That's one. Two, we have a trail we can follow. All of this FEMA money, first off, that even the Republicans voted for because the Democrats hit it in a bill and the Republicans didn't hit it. They need to go back and rescind that. They also need to arrest these people that are not willing to cooperate because they are draining, as the mayor of Dallas said, our system. The people that we're supposed to be helping in the hood and stuff, they're hurting that.
Don't be misled. Don't be misled by our fake Republican mayor of Dallas. Because he repeated twice in the same sentence, yes, violent criminals must be deported. Yes, violent criminals will cooperate. They're straining our government, our hospitals, and our schools. Violent criminals aren't straining anything other than killing us. Of course they need to go. The people that are straining our hospitals and our schools, Mr. Mayor, if you want to grow up here and act like a real Republican, are all the illegals that have come in the past 4 years. And I don't hear him saying anything about that, so I don't trust him. I've never have. He's a fake Republican. But I just wanted to correct the record on that. Did you have one more thing?
Yes, sir. They have a trail, Chris. The people that are getting money right now, a lot of them aren't even working. They're getting free money from the government.
Yes,
and
housing.
They've got phones.
And food.
I want to know,
yes.
The first 2 years, they had a trail. They had people they were shipping, and remember,
yes.
through the dead of night, through plane.
Yes.
I want to know why they sent it there.
What?
And I'm the one that told you it was last year, maybe a year ago, when you said you did not know why they're benefiting from this or how they can. If you recall, I called in and told you, and I'd heard it on this program from the Rush Limbaugh show, and it was in July or August. It was because they're using the census to put it into specific
Yes,
areas.
I know that. They're doing that, yes. So they can rig elections and everything. They absolutely are, Joe. Appreciate your call. Randy in Fort Worth, you got 30 seconds. Go.
Yep, we need to fire the head of the Department of Transportation. They are allowing foreign drivers to come over here with an international license and take food off of American CDL truck drivers' tables. We need to repeal that law, do away with international license, and give the community back its trucking. They are killing our industry. They are killing our industry with that international license.
And we
need to repeal it, and we need to fire the guy that's running the Department of Transportation.
Well, we will. Do you know? Is that part of NAFTA?
Yes, sir.
He's going to rip a lot of that stuff up, the trade agreements.
Well, they need to get rid of the Department of Transportation head, and they need to repeal all international driver's license.
You're talking about the DOT head, which is Mayor Pete. He's out. He's fired in a couple months. I appreciate your call, Randy.
I'm talking about the guy that adopted a baby and took a picture in the bed like he just had that child. Him and his lover.
Yeah, I got you. Thank you, Randy. I appreciate you very much, and God bless you, and God bless our truckers, and I really mean that, my friend. Thank you. All right, Congressman Chip Roy was at the border today in a separate ceremony with Texas Land Commissioner Dawn Buckingham. We talked to her yesterday. We talked to Chip today, and he's got a lot of new information with everything we're talking about, the illegals. Do not miss this. Coming up next at 33 after the hour on Chris Crock Show on News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3. News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset. 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. Congressman Chip Roy, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you, Chris?
Wonderful. So, hey, tell me what's going on. You were there, and you were a part of all of this. What's going on at this 1,400-acre site, and what happened today there, and what are you seeing that's going to take place there?
Yeah, no, great to be on, and happy Thanksgiving to you and all the listeners out there, and to Jack, who I know is not here right now. But yeah, we had a great turnout, a great event down along the border with Don Buckingham at Rio Grande City, our land commissioner, good friend of mine, and then a number of the ledge. We had about 20-ish or so of the state ledge who joined, along with the Border Patrol Union, and importantly, Jocelyn Nungaray, who, as you probably know and remember, her daughter was murdered in July by gang members, TDA gang members from Venezuela, by individuals released into our country by the Biden administration. Well, Dawn is saying under her authority as land commissioner, she's making available that particular land and other land around the state in whatever way would be appropriate for the Trump administration to be able to use it for deportation. And of course, in addition, that 1,400-acre ranch will be used for additional fencing. And in fact, while we were there, they were additional fencing. They're building the wall as we speak. Texas is getting the job done. I know the help that we desperately need in January here. Guys told me they were going to have mass retirements had Kamala Harris won the election.
Wow. Let me ask you. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead. You broke up for a second. Go ahead, Chip.
Point is, no, that's okay. Tom Homan and Governor Abbott were at a different part of the border, but they're all seeing the troops, literally National Guard, Border Patrol guys, doing great things. Tom's a good friend, and so they were at two other spots on the border today while we were down at Rio Grande City.
Gotcha. Well, let me ask you this. How long of a border wall will we be able to build there on the land that she acquired? It was amazing to hear from Dawn yesterday when she told us on this show that they're literally putting up wall on their own, which is incredible. How long of a wall will they be putting up there, a border fence?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure the exact number of the length. What was interesting was, and I didn't know what to expect when I got there, is we drove onto the property. It's 1,400 acres, pretty sizable. I mean, I know in Texas ranch terms it's pretty small, but 1,400 acres is still pretty big. And when we drove, we had to drive for a long time getting back there, and they had all of these, the Ballard fence, all laid out in sections, ready to go up, and a whole line of a road going there. And they had about, I'd say, probably, maybe a football field's length that was built, maybe 100 yards, as a tiny little segment of it. So it's got to be at least, a couple of miles, a few miles of fencing there across the 1,400 acres. Certainly thousands of yards of fencing.
Chip, what kind of synergy do you expect Trump and Homan to have with Governor Abbott and Commissioner Buckingham? And how will you be helping the Trump and Abbott folks to stop this invasion and get rid of all these illegals Joe and Kamala let in, including the non-criminal illegal invaders?
Yeah, that's a really important part. Let me first start on the first part of your question. Texas will be working directly side by side with a Trump administration that's committed to the rule of law. It'll be a two-way street. We will not be tolerating, I hope, as certainly the legislature and Governor Abbott, sanctuary cities or sanctuary jurisdictions in Texas. We're going to have people that are going to work with the administration to make sure that we're deporting those who need to be deported. That's critical. We need local law enforcement and local jurisdictions to work with ICE and the federal authorities. But secondly, in terms of what we do, it's really important that Congress give additional tools to President Trump in terms of permanent policy changes, but also support financially for doing what needs to be done with deportation, and stand behind the president and, in fact, encourage the president to do what is necessary to deport not just criminals, but the broad swath of people who are illegally, illegitimately dumped onto the streets of our country through the abuse of our laws. And we can't allow that. They can't stay because they're using the social welfare state. They are, for example, Kenny County. They had about 170 arrests in 2021. They've had 16,000 plus arrests since then. The burdens on our communities are real. We need to stop it. And it's not just criminals. It's on our schools, our hospitals, and all of our social services.
So, Chip, Another thing I wanted to ask you is, second of all, are you seeing a lot of resistance, though? Because a lot of people are saying, oh, yeah, the violent criminals, like the Dallas mayor, who I'm not a fan of his. I'm suspect about him being an authentic Republican, but he said, yeah, the violent criminals. Oh, I'll work with Trump on the violent criminals. But he wouldn't say the illegals who came here in the last 4 years. I want every one of them deported from this country. So are you hearing a lot of resistance where they're just saying, oh, the violent criminals? And do you think that might be an issue coming in the next couple of years?
Yeah, it's absolutely going to be an issue. Republicans are always going to try to find the fastest path to be able to squish out and cut a deal and not do what they were elected to do. And we're going to have to call that out. That's what's going to happen, to be very clear. I've already heard members talking about it. We've had some, even from the Texas delegation, go on TV and say, oh, we can't deport him. We'll focus on the criminals, but not everybody else. Look, the fact of the matter is you have millions of people who are released unlawfully into the United States. They need to be deported. Let me give you another number. 1.3 million people right now in this country who illegally came here now have orders for removal. That does include people, by the way, who are not just criminals, but they've been ordered to be removed. They're not being removed by this administration. The very first thing the Trump administration should and can do, besides secure the border and stop the flow, is to remove those 1.3 million people who already have an order. And then go find the people who were gotaways. They don't have any papers at all. Get rid of them. Find any criminals. If they're not behind bars, get rid of them. That's what we need to do, and then continue to move through the numbers. Because remember, it was purposeful by the Biden administration to dump all those people in our country and give them a notice to appear in court in like 2033. That is not acceptable. They're using social welfare services, and we can't abide by it. We got to reestablish the rule of law. And by the way, get Americans back to work by doing what we need to do to get them off welfare, train them, and make sure they've got the jobs before you worry about what's happening with future flow of additional workers.
Congressman, I should say Texas Congressman Chip Roy, do you support arresting local and county officials who hinder the apprehension of illegals? People like Bexar County Sheriff Javier Salazar, who could do that, should he hinder, and other officials. Do you expect people like Sheriff Salazar to possibly resist, or I should say hinder, or city officials in San Antonio, for example, or in Dallas or Houston or anywhere?
Well, they sure as hell better not. I mean, let's be very clear. I'm a federalist at heart. I don't like the federal government coming into Texas and telling us to do virtually anything at all. But the federal government has a core responsibility to secure the border of the United States and to make sure there are not dangerous criminals, not dangerous terrorists, and other individuals floating in our community. Local law enforcement has a duty to enforce the law. They have a duty to work with federal law enforcement to enforce the law. The state of Texas, our position as a state, is that these people should be removed. We should track them down and work with the federal law to do that. So if local officials are violating that, then they are almost certainly in violation of state law as well. And we need to make sure that we're holding them to account. If they have to be arrested or if they have to be otherwise dealt with, then so be it. But we need to carry out the job the American people put us into office to carry out, which is secure our communities, secure our borders, remove the dangerous criminals, remove the aliens who are here using social services, and get the status quo back, and frankly, improve the country by making sure Americans can go back to work, make sure only Americans are voting in American elections, make sure we reestablish order at the border, take out the cartels, stop the fentanyl flowing in. We just have to do it and decide to do it immediately.
Chip, you said take out the cartels. Are you on board with us sending our special forces in conjunction, hopefully, with the Mexico special forces, or even solo if must be, like when we took out bin Laden, and taking out those super labs all over Mexico?
One of the first bills I introduced in Congress was a bill to designate them as foreign terrorist organizations. We've debated that back and forth. Maybe there's a different way to do it. I don't really care. My point was I wanted to lead to say that our intelligence efforts, our criminal efforts, our financial tools, and importantly, even the military ought to be used as necessary to take out the cartels. And if we need to pass the authorization of the use of military force to go take out the cartels, then so be it. I'm tired of these individuals targeting Americans. I'm tired of them dumping children into the sex trafficking trade. I'm tired of them pouring fentanyl into our communities. I'm tired of them endangering the border. I'm tired of them abusing migrants and charging them thousands of dollars for their profiteering. It should end. We could end it if we chose to, and we should.
You know, Chuck, you talked about victims. How's the Nungaray family doing? I know you visited with Jocelyn's mother and family members. How are they doing right now? I know it's their first Thanksgiving without their sweetheart.
Well, you know, this is one of those things. I've come to know so many of these victims. Alexis testified at a House Judiciary Committee hearing. I visited with her. I visited with her and her mom today. Man, they're doing as well as you could expect. Their heart still hurts. Remember, it was only 4 months ago, just 4 months ago, that Alexis lost her precious 12-year-old daughter, Jocelyn. And she's coping by getting out and leading. She's been courageous. She tells the story. She wasn't that political before all of this, and she's leaned into it to try to honor her daughter's memory, to try to protect other kids. They're doing fine. They're hurting. Pray for them. Pray for the families of all these people who have unfortunately been victims, like Laken Riley or Kayla Hamilton or Rachel Marin, or I mean, how many names do you want me to give of the families that have been ripped apart because this administration blatantly disregarded the law? Our job right now is to undo the damage of the Biden administration and reestablish order under the Trump administration. That will be the Trump legacy, reversing this terrible damage and then establishing order.
And Chip Roy, step 3 of Trump's plan, according to the Daily Mail, is to get non-criminal illegal aliens, including workplace raids. Are you on board with that, along with going into the illegal migrant shelters all over this country, particularly Denver, New York, Chicago, and others? Are you on board with going into those illegal migrant shelters and deporting any one of them that have no business being in our country?
I am in favor of taking all measures necessary. I do not want to get in front of the administration or in front of Tom Homan.
Right.
I'll let them kind of lay out what they want to do. As a member of Congress, then we will have oversight. We will work with them, figure out funding, make sure the law is being followed, all the things we're supposed to do. But I'm in favor of taking all the steps necessary to clean out our communities from people who have been released into them unlawfully and illegitimately. I realize there are some good people that have come here under the false pretense of the Biden administration selling something they couldn't sell, the abuse of our laws to release them into our country. But our job is to protect our communities, reestablish the rule of law, and that's what we need to do. And it's not going to always be easy, but nothing is that's worth doing. We are a sovereign nation. We are not just an idea, to quote J.D. Vance. We are not just an idea. We're a nation of people. We are a nation of communities, and we have an obligation to protect this great nation.
Chip, a couple more quick questions before we let you go. What do you know about Trump's plan to have super centers for detention facilities, military possibly, all over the U.S. to house, jail, and eventually deport these illegals? What do you know about that?
Well, again, I don't want to get in front of Tom and the great leadership there that they're putting together or the president. But what I know is they have very concrete plans, like you said. There are facilities. There are lands that are available, as we just talked about. Texas lands they're trying to make available. There are some existing facilities. They ought to be used. And to be clear, I've got some of my friends of the more libertarian bent, and I've got some fairly libertarian-like leaning tendencies on occasion. I don't like the government being involved in our lives. But the people that are worried about the military, and they say, well, this is posse comitatus, this is a use of military for policing. No, what I'm hearing Tom and those guys talk about is the use of the military for facilitating movement, for logistical support. The law enforcement would be carrying out the enforcement of the law under our laws. But the military certainly, especially with an invasion of this nature, endangering the people, can certainly provide logistical support, and I believe that would be constitutional and appropriate. But, we got to look at all the details and make sure that we're following the laws appropriately, and I'm sure Tom Homan and the great folks working around him and the new secretary, if she's confirmed, will be doing just that.
Chip, I know we all got to go, but let me pop off 3 real quick ones. You can lightning answer them on your own. What should Trump do about the illegals from Venezuela, these countries where they won't take them back? Mexican President Sheinbaum already threatening back and forth with us, but it sounds like she's finally bowed to pressure. And did you see those 2- and 4-year-old sweethearts that were at the border that can barely, talk for themselves and talking to our DPS troopers? It's horrifying.
Yeah, it is horrifying. I mean, let me just tell you. I mean, when I first came to Congress, I went to the border. I still have a picture on my phone of this beautiful little girl. She was about 7 years old, who had a number written on her forearm because she was, trying to, it was just unbelievable and just heartbreaking. She was so beautiful. She was this wonderful little girl. And I always wonder, did she get to somewhere safely? And I've seen so many of those children over the years in my engagement at the border. I go to the border often, like I did today. On these other questions, look, I think what was the first question? Sorry.
The first question, no, you were in the middle of everything out there. So what should Trump do about the illegals from Venezuela who they claim they won't take back? And what about Scheinbaum putting the tariffs on us and going back and forth? Yeah.
So, number one, of course, the president should be rattling about tariffs to force Mexico to the table and have the president of Mexico come with us. She already reacted by saying, oh, well, the flow is stopping. Well, okay, why don't you stop the flow? You're capable of doing it.
Yeah.
Why don't you jack up the cartels? Oh, I don't know, because they own you. Well, look, we're going to force that issue. The president is right to do it. And by the way, with Venezuela and all the other countries that we've been dealing with the abuse of our parole system to release them into our country, Venezuela is going to take these criminal aliens back. We will use the pressure that is necessary. The president should, and everybody in Congress should be supporting it. I'm sick of this crap. These countries, particularly in the Western Hemisphere, have been piggybacking off the United States of America for a long time. Now they're saddling up with China. That stuff needs to end. They need to know that we mean business. They're going to take these folks back, and they're going to be dealing with us on a new set of terms now. And I support the president, whatever he wants to do in that regard.
A to the men. All right, Chuck, thank you. Chip, thank you very much for your awesome help, your time. It's really a pleasure to get to talk to you for the first time in my career. I appreciate you very much. And for folks, this is going to be posted on their Twitter feed. My Twitter feed, which I'm going to repost it, is at Chris Kroc Show, ChrisKrok. Chip, if you want to mention your feed too, then go ahead, please.
Yes, my Twitter feed is ChipRoyTX, ChipRoyTX. You can visit my website at roy.house.gov. Thanks for having me on the show. Let's visit again soon. Happy Thanksgiving to you and all the listeners out
Happy
there.
Thanksgiving
God bless y'all.
to you too, and thank you for fighting the good fight for us. Appreciate you, sir. All right, well, Chip Roy is obviously fantastic and is a great legislator for us. I'm a big supporter of his. It was great to get him on. Now, coming up next, there's a huge follow-up to the squatters in my neighborhood. We went from 5 squad cars and 7 cops to 7 squad cars today and a lot more cops with, what's the gear you do when you SWAT gear? Yes, in our neighborhood, right by my house today, in broad daylight. Wow. Have you ever had squatters? What have you done to get rid of them? How have you had them? Warnings to homeowners? And what other scary things have you seen happen with cops and criminals in your neighborhood? All that's coming up next. Chris Kroc Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, and now on FM at 93.3. That's coming up at 54 after the hour on News Talk 820 WBAP, 800-288-9227, and now on FM at 93.3. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset, 800-288-9227. Coming up next on the Chris Kroc Show, we get right into it. We still have squatters in our neighborhood, and I honestly, I think we all believe they're junkies. And there's as many as 8 or between, there's 6 to 10 of them in the house. And today, the company that owns the house, that is renting it, that is trying to get it listed again, showed up and asked the cops to come out because they wanted to go in the house, but there was a lot of people in there still. And it was worse than the last time. And there was a huger raid, bigger raid today than last time. So maybe you have had to get rid of squatters in your neighborhood. Maybe you've seen this go down. What are your warnings to other homeowners? How have you gotten rid of them? And also, what other scary things have you seen happen with cops and criminals in your neighborhood? This is not the first one. This is not the last one, unfortunately. And I live in a good area, too. It's not some ratty area. All that coming up next. I want to hear your stories, too, at 800-288-WBAP on News Talk 820 WBAP. And now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset.